The duration of the period at which it takes possession of the dead body greatly depends on the nature and the cause of death. Modern medical science has nearly elucidated this mystery of cadaverous rigidity and the exact time of the putrefaction of the body. These have been graphically described in Fargard 7th of the Vendidad. Careful instructions are given as to the part of the house, and the manner in which the dead body should be kept, pending its ultimate disposal. The place of its final rest, where it may. P. 33. Dissolve into its natural elements. The subsequent purification of the place where the body may have lain in the house. The people who carry the corpse. The clothes that may have come in contact with it. And the purification of the flowing water in which the corpse may have been found. Purity is the best thing for men after birth, says the Avesta. Those who are desirous of further investigating the subject will be handsomely repaid their trouble in perusing Fargard's v. 6th, VII, v. and IX. of the Vendidad, wherein they will find scientific instructions as to the germ theory and the preservation of the public health. Though enunciated thousands of years ago, they are now carefully and minutely followed by Western nations in the 20th century. Next in order comes the command to cultivate the soil, to produce corn, provender, and fruit-bearing trees, to irrigate dry land and drain the marshes, and to populate the whole with men, cattle, and useful beasts of burden. Zoroastrian philosophy shudders with horror at the contemplation of the motherly earth being defiled by the burial therein of dead bodies, and consequently means are devised of disposing of corpses on high mountain tops by birds of prey or by the process of nature. The modern Parsis, in accordance with the ancient regulations, have devised towers of silence. The Parsis of Bombay are p. 34. Grateful to their ancient prophet, who taught them the great hygienic principle of sanitation. During recent years it has saved them, a handful as they are, from the bubonic plague. This great Druxnacus carried away thousands of natives, hour by hour and day by day, and yet signally failed in his wholesale attack on the Parsis. The reason is obvious. The armor of health, forged by Zoroaster during his pious contemplation of 30 years' duration on the Mount Ushtarena, and so fittingly worn by the Parsis of the present day, is invulnerable to the attack of Angromanius and such of his satellites as Druxnacus. Strict ordinances are made for the care and welfare of women during certain periods, including those of gestation and childbirth, so that no injury may happen in the latter instance to the parent and the offspring and to those who have to assist at this great function of nature. Besides these, there are numerous directions as to observing cleanliness in ordinary daily life, all tending to the care and purification of the body and prevention of infectious diseases by contact. This is purity, O Zarathustra, the Mazda-Yasnian law. He who keeps himself pure by good thoughts, words, and works. P. 35. As to the right purity of one's own body, that is the purification of everyone in this corporeal world for his own state. When he keeps himself pure by good thoughts, words, and works. Having made men invulnerable to diseases, Zoroaster proceeded to look after their morals. His moral philosophy deals with two attributes inherent in man: the good mind and the evil mind. These two are allegorically termed Vahumana, the good mind, and Akamana, the evil mind. Thoughts, words, and deeds are liable to the influence of either Vahumana, the good mind, or Akamana, the evil mind. Zoroaster has summed up the whole of his moral philosophy in three expressive words: Humata, good thoughts; Hakta, good words; and Havarshta, good deeds. The way to heaven is laid through these three mystic avenues, and the seeker of them is borne through with the self-consciousness of having spent his allotted span of life to the use and furtherance of God's good creation, and to his eternal glory. Turn yourself, not away from three best things: good thought, good word, and good deed. By good thoughts, a Zoroastrian is able to concentrate his mind in divine contemplation of p. 36. The Creator, and live in peace, unity, and harmony with his fellow brethren. For the love of his fellowmen, he is enjoined to protect them in danger, to help them in need and want. to raise their understanding and education, to enable them to enter into holy bonds of matrimony, and to the best of his resources to enhance the prosperity and welfare of the community of his brotherhood in particular, and of all mankind in general. By good words, he is enjoined not to break his contract with others, to observe honesty and integrity in all commercial transactions, faithfully to pay back any borrowed money at the risk of being called a thief, to prevent hurting the feelings of others, and to engender feelings of love and charity in the Mazda-Yasnian fraternity. By good deeds, he is directed to relieve the poor, deserving and undeserving, to irrigate and cultivate the soil, to provide food and fresh water in places where needed, to encourage matrimony, and to devote the surplus of his wealth and charity to the well-being and prosperity of his co-religionists and others. The Parsis of India are too well known for their disinterested charities amongst the people of all denominations to need any eulogistic remarks from me. It is a matter of great pride to me, as a Parsi, and a subject of deep thankfulness to God, as one of his beings, that in this matter my co-religionists in the East have truly p. 37. And faithfully, and with the utmost tolerance, distributed their wealth in wise and useful charities, to lessen the sorrows and untold miseries, and brighten the homes of our less fortunate brethren. I praise the well-thought sentiment, the well-spoken speech, the well-performed action. I praise the good Mazda-Yasnian law, the free from doubt, removing strife. One can picture to himself the properly ordained household of a Zoroastrian, who has carefully imbibed the abstract principles of Humata, Hutta, and Havarshta, and put them to practical purposes in an ordinary workaday life. Marriage is particularly recommended as a great factor towards leading a religious and virtuous life, in addition to the social comforts of physical, mental, and moral recreations. The household of a man's 6f well-regulated mind is his peaceful domain, wherein he is the lord with his worthy consort, both entwined together and actuated by that religious affinity which the Zoroastrian religion, by wise and philosophical precepts, never fails to infuse. As the land improves by fertilization, so should mankind by union, says the Zoroastrian philosophy. One of the 5 things most pleasing to God, mentioned in Fargud 3rd of the Vendidad, is that a holy p. 38. Man should build himself a habitation, provide himself with a wife, children, fire, and a herd of cattle. The husband is required to obey the laws of health and be brave, to protect and preserve his family from any outside violence, to be industrious, to provide them with necessaries of life, to be tolerant, truthful, and chaste, and to complete the domestic happiness of his family circle. Chastity and implicit obedience from a wife to her husband are considered to be the greatest virtues in a woman, the breach whereof will be punished as a sin. In every way, the wife is equal to her husband in social status, enjoying perfect liberty of action. These wise domestic regulations are so faithfully followed by the modern Parsis that misbehavior or misconduct of a woman is altogether conspicuous by its absence. Divorce for misconduct is almost an unknown thing, and the writer cannot but congratulate his community on the fact of total absence of women of loose morals. It is one of the ordinances of the faith that a father must look after the spiritual and temporal education of his children, and bring them up well fortified physically and morally to fight the battle of life with perseverance, diligence, honesty, and integrity, thus enhancing the reputation of his family and the honor of his community. p. 39. May the desirable obedience come hither, for joy to the men and women of Zarathustra. Tolerance is another great feature of the Parsi faith. Though taught to revere his own religion and despise and destroy idols and images, he is also impressed with the idea of observing great tolerance and discretion in passing judgment on the religious belief of others. Zoroaster himself set the example of this excellent precept, whilst praising the soul Fravashi. The Fravashis of the pure men in all regions praise we. Plus. It is evident that he prayed for all wise and holy men and women who believed in God. That the same spirit exists to the present day, is proved by the munificent gifts of the Parsis for charitable purposes to people, irrespective of creed or caste, having for their sole object the relief of mankind. Strict as the law of chastity is, a great spirit of tolerance is shown in the Avesta writing in reference to an unmarried woman, who happens to fall a victim to the charms of an insidious man. True, it is a punishable sin, yet the Almighty, in His mercy, has taken due notice of such a misfortune happening in a household. In the poetic language of the Avesta, it is laid down that a virgin, who whilst under the protection of her parents, either betrothed or not, p. 40. Betrothed, is in a way to become a mother, should not for the very shame of the act attempt to destroy herself. She must not add to the sin already committed, a further and more heinous crime of self-destruction. Further, she is forbidden, under the penalty of a grave sin, from seeking to destroy the fruit of her body, either with the assistance of her partner in the guilt or that of her parents in order to hide her shame from the world. She must not seek, at the instigation of her betrayer from the path of chastity, the assistance of an old woman versed in herbology. The putative father must protect the unfortunate partner of his guilt and the child. Here is a tragic drama of the 20th century, so often enacted in our criminal courts, written and commented upon by Zoroaster in his Gospel, in the primitive pastoral age, at the beginning of the history of the world. What thoughts, what deep moral philosophy, what superhuman knowledge, must have been invoked by the great Iranian sage to soften the hardships of life, by introducing a ray of heavenly mercy, of which Tom Hood sings centuries after. Take her up tenderly, lift her with care. Fashioned so slenderly, young and so fair. p. 41. Touch her not scornfully. Think of her mournfully, gently and humanly. Not of the stains of her, all that remains of her now is pure womanly. The whole creation is placed under the guardianship of God as the head, and 6 Ameshaspans archangels. Ameshaspans are mystical guardian spirits, who work night and day incessantly for the welfare and protection of the creation committed to their charge by the Almighty. God is the protector of man. 1. Bahman is given the custody of all useful domestic animals and birds. 2. Ardibihist has the control of fire and life-giving heat. 3. Shahrivar is the president of all kinds of metals and minerals. 4. Aspendarmit is the custodian of the earth, with injunctions to keep it fruitful, clean, and cultivated. 5. Khordad has to see to the purity of water and water courses. 6. Amardad tends to trees and vegetation. With the assistance of Yazat's angels night and day they police this earth and guard their respective charges against the encroachment of the evil spirit Angromanius. Zoroaster, having dealt with the welfare of mankind, has not forgotten lower animals in his p. 42. Moral philosophy. Special regulations are laid down for their kind and considerate treatment. He has recognized the necessity of slaughtering animals for human food, prescribed which kinds of animals and birds are fit for that purpose, and shown the most humane and expeditious methods of killing them, methods which, curiously enough, are now recommended and adopted in this country by public authorities. Unnecessary slaughter is forbidden, and shooting for mere pleasure is absolutely discountenanced. One instance, woven in traditional Oriental imagery, will suffice to convey the sentiments of the Parsis on this subject. The overlord of the herd of the domestic cattle Joyce Irvin raises his plaintive call of heart-rending pathos to the Almighty Creator, and humbly beseeches His intercession to alleviate the pain and sufferings his fellow kind have to undergo at the hand of men. The poor petitioner becomes aware of the fact, that in accordance with the prearranged plan, his herd was created for the support and advancement of the corporeal world. That it is expected of them to furnish flesh, food and milk, and to be useful to the cultivator of the soil. In return men are enjoined, under penalty of severe punishment, to be kind and attentive to their many wants, and merciful in their necessary slaughter. The bovine leader is further informed that Zoroaster, by sweetness of speech, will p. 43. assuage their sufferings and engender a benevolent spirit of humanity amongst their cruel tormentors. The dumb petitioner, whose vision of protection being limited to the sole aspiration of obtaining the support of a powerfully armed warrior, is not able to understand that in many instances persuasive and convincing words are far more potent than a sharp-edged sword of the best-tempered steel and more effective in their purpose than the brute force of a salient blow. As to kindness to dumb animals, the following passage from Padatarani Kordavesta will show what the Zoroastrians think. Of all kinds of sins which I have committed with reference to heaven against the Amisha Spenbauman the protector of cattle with reference to the world against the cattle and the various kinds of cattle, if I have beaten it, tortured it, slain it wrongfully, if I have not given it fodder and water at the right time, if I have castrated it, not protected it from the robber, the wolf, and the waylayer, if I have not protected it from extreme heat and cold, if I have killed cattle of useful strength, working cattle, war horses, rams, goats, cocks, and hens, so that alike these good things and their protector Brahman have been injured by me and not contented with me, I repent. P. 44. This merciful and ancient teaching does not call for the intervention of any public society to prevent cruelty to animals, so far as the Parsis are concerned. I humbly venture to suggest that it is not the imposition of fine or imprisonment by the civil law of the country that deters the evildoer. What is wanted is a sound doctrine of moral philosophy, as expounded by Zoroaster, preached and brought home to these people by a carefully organized system. Man has conscience and a soul to be saved. And, however hardened his nature may have become, it is within the bounds of possibility to awaken him to his wickedness and cowardice to dumb animals, who patiently and courageously work for him, and are the means of procuring him ease and comfort in his worldly existence. Unlike other religions, it condemns fasting or total abstaining from food as a wicked and a foolish act, which injures and enervates the body. No one who does not eat has strength to do works of holiness, strength to do works of husbandry. By eating, every material creature lives. By not eating, it dies away. With us the keeping of fast is this, that we keep fast from committing sin with our eyes, and tongue, and ears, and hands, and feet. Since I have spoken in this manner, and have p. 45. Brought forward the fasting of the 7 members of the body, that which, in other religions, is fasting owing to not eating, is, in our religion, fasting owing to not committing sin excess. Readers, such are a few salient principles of the Zoroastrian theology of the life on the earth, which I now close by quoting from the Vendidad. Increase, live the whole time of thy life, as long as thou wilt live. Plus. Of the life hereafter. Yet know, vain skeptics. Know, th Almighty Mind, who breathed on man a portion of his fire bade his free soul, by earth nor time confined, to heaven, to immortality aspire. Slowly and solemnly, now I approach the subject of great theological mystery, of the migration from the known to the unknown universe. The worldly existence is, in the end, death and disappearance, and of the spiritual existence, in the end, that of a soul of the righteous is undecaying, immortal, and undisturbed, full of glory and full of enjoyment, forever and everlasting, with the angels and archangels and the guardian spirits of the righteous. P. 46. The hour of departure rings out in solemn silence, when the severance of terrestrial friendship and unity which existed in him as a man must take place, one to ascend, and the remnant to dissolve into its elements. The scriptures of Zoroaster most vividly describe this solemn event, and give evidence right through of the great belief in immortality of the soul and the resurrection of the body. At the glorious sunset of the pious life, the soul remains 3 days near his lifelong friend the body, and perceives and sees as much joyfulness as the whole living world possesses. For him, the 4th day dawns in gloria in excelsis. From the midst of his worldly nearest and dearest relatives, friends, and neighbors, the soul, having been bidden pious adieu and holy blessings, ascends in the company of his guardian angel, Shros, to render his account at the gate of Chinvat Bridge. In his upward ethereal journey, floating in the region of the sweet-scented balm of the south soft wind, he meets his own astral self, transformed into a handsome figure of gracefulness and seraphic beauty. This figure reveals itself to him as his good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Pleased with his welcome, and having rendered his account to Merdavar, the recorder at the gate of heaven, he passes the barrier to eternal bliss and happiness, and awaits his body on the great day. P. 47. Of resurrection. On the contrary, there is a drastic picture drawn of the soul of a wicked man. It must suffer till the last day of the great gathering, when everybody will be judged, the battle will end, the evil spirit will no more have power to play man as a pawn, and there will be everlasting peace, peace and happiness. The subject is a vast one, and the space limited for this purpose does not permit me, as I should like, to deal with it in extenso. I hope the extract given on this subject will interest the readers. A sinful soul need never despair of mercy and forgiveness of God. Wicked as he may have been, a due notice of any good deed done by him will be taken into consideration by the Great Merciful. One of the numerous questions asked by Zoroaster of Ahura Mazda was in reference to a man whose body was feeling the torments of hell, with the exception of his right foot. It was participating in the heavenly bliss and comfort. The man was a wicked king in the world below, who ruled his country with oppression, lawlessness, and violence. He was incapable of practicing any known virtue. One day, when he was out hunting for his pleasure, he saw a goat, tethered to a stake, vainly trying to reach a morsel of hay. The sight of a poor hungry beast straining at the rope kindled a spark of mercy in his otherwise obdurate heart. Thus moved by a p. 48. Sudden impulse, he, with his right foot, kicked the morsel of hay within reach of the famished beast. The incident was duly recorded in the Book of Fate, and the foot received its reward. This legend, savouring of antiquity, and backed up by ancient authorities, reveals to a Zoroastrian the sublime doctrine of reward and punishment. After a youth has attained the age of 15 and sought the Zoroastrian law, he is enjoined to be liberal in thoughts and deeds, pious and religious in ceremonial rites, just and wise as a ruler, truthful and honest in his dealings, careful in keeping the elements pure and undefiled, active in destroying evil, attentive to the care and wants of the domestic animals, industrious in cultivating and irrigating land, persevering in education of himself and others, temperate in all desires, and useful to mankind in promoting harmony, concord, and unity amongst his kinsfolk, friends, and others. He must carefully weigh the merits and demerits of every step he has to take on the path of life. If by want of knowledge or ignorance, he does anything which turns out to be a sinful act, he must, at the earliest possible opportunity, rectify and remedy the same. From his early youth he is taught the belief that all his good and evil deeds will be duly recorded. That with the flight of time they will grow, multiply, and accumulate. On the day of the ascension of his soul, the recording angel Merdavar will ask him to render an p. 49. account of his short span of corporeal life, before bidding him enter that place of supreme bliss, known to the modern Parsis as Gar-Othman Behest. Readers of this brief sketch might say that this is a philosophy couleur de rose. Nay, ask yourselves the question, what has been achieved by the teachings of Zoroaster? You will find that they have brought peace and happiness to Parsi households. They have made them loyal and peace-abiding subjects of the British Crown, and a benevolent community to the people of the world. They have lessened pauperism, crime, infamy, and immorality. They have made them a race worthy of its proud traditions, which command the respect, confidence, and admiration of those with whom they come in contact. It is very rare to find a Parsi of a criminal instinct. Crime mania, if it can be designated as such, has no suitable soil prepared for it to flourish in a Parsi community. It must wither in its very inception, for the antidote prepared by Zoroaster, and faithfully handed down from generation to his disciples and followers, has raised an effective rampart against the approach of this foul and degrading instinct. At the moment of writing this, a subject of vast importance to my fellow creatures in this country passes in review before me. In the course of my professional duties I have been, on numerous p. 50 occasions, an unwilling spectator of many tragic dramas which are daily enacted in our criminal courts. Within a few yards of gaiety and pleasure, prosperity and brilliancy, one can easily step into a veritable slum life of this great metropolis. A poor, half-starved, pale, and delicate-looking waif, bootless and hatless, with scarcely a semblance of garments, spies your intrusion into his domain. It is sad to contemplate his fate, his end, and his ultimate destination. This fruit, of ill-conditioned parents, grows up to look upon society as his natural foes to be preyed upon. Hardened and rendered callous by the rigor of the criminal law, the nation has in him an utterly worthless and a dangerous man. One asks, has he heard a word of moral truth? Has he been taught the moral philosophy? Has he acquired the conception of God and nature? Thoughtless, friendless, homeless, and godless, he roams, a prey to the evil mind Akamana. In the next scene of life we find him the willing slave of the devil Angromanius. One step further and a sentence from the black-capped judge is his reward. A short delay, and then comes the end. Who can tell the terrible anguish, the torturing thoughts, and the painful agonies of unrestrained remorse of this wretched being, who was awakened and enlightened at the 11th hour by the ministration of some holy man of God? Sad to say, it is too late for this earth. Standing on p. 51. The threshold of eternity for one brief moment, listening to the soothing words of his own burial service, he mutely prays what? For God's forgiveness for those who could have done better for him and his wretched kind. Let me ring down the curtain in mercy to one more miserable soul that has gone aloft to render his account. It is not the fault of one class of men or the other. It is not the fault of the clergy that God's superior and gifted animal has been allowed to become a prey of the evil spirit and then hounded out of existence by our law. It is the fault of our system, want of unity, of proper charitable organization, and of discriminate support by the well-to-do and prosperous class. Were Zoroaster to visit this country, I venture to say that his first step in practical moral philosophy would be to organize a national institution, where these poor waifs and strays could be bent from their infancy to the righteous path of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Then the nation will be rewarded by the sight of the sons of the soil, marching in distant climes for the glory and honor of the British flag, as soldiers of God and the King, and pioneers of the ever-extending British Empire, as did their heroic brethren in Persia of old under the victorious flag of illustrious Go. p. 52. Resurrection. I cannot do better than refer to the following passage in Bundahes, on this subject. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda, whence does a body form again which the wind has carried and the water conveyed? And how does the resurrection occur? Ahura Mazda answered thus, when through me the sky arose from the substance of the ruby, without columns, on the spiritual support of far compassed light. When through me the earth arose, which bore the material life, and there is no maintainer of the worldly creation but it. When by me the sun and moon and stars are conducted into the firmament of luminous bodies. When by me corn was created so that, scattered about in the earth, it grew again and returned with increase. When by me color of various kinds was created in plants. When by me fire was created in plants and other things without combustion. When by me a son was created and fashioned in the womb of a mother, and the structure severally of the skin, nails, blood, feet, eyes, ears, and other things was produced. When by me legs plus were created for the water, so that it flows away, and the cloud was created which carries the water of the world and rains there where it has a. p. 53. Purpose. When by me the air was created which conveys in one's eyesight, through the strength of the wind, the lowermost upwards, according to its will, and one is not able to grasp it with the hand outstretched. Each one of them, when created by me, was herein more difficult than causing the resurrection, for it is an assistance to me in the resurrection that they exist, but when they were formed it was not forming the future out of the past. According to the ancient Bundahes, At the time of the resurrection, the soul will demand its original body out of the custody of the three known elements: the earth, the water, and the fire. All the dead will rise with consciousness of their good and evil deeds. At the great assembly, in the presence of the righteous, they will penitently deplore their misdeeds. Then will there be the separation of the righteous from the wicked for 3 nights and days. The wicked, full in the sight of paradise, beholding heaven and feeling hell. Plus, the reign of terror, at the end of the stipulated time, vanishes into oblivion, and its chief actor Ahriman goes to meet his doom of total extinction. p. 54. Whilst Ahura Mazda the omnipotent victor remains the great all-in-all. After this great penance, God in His mercy prepares a bath of purification, through which all pass, and arise in sanctified purity. Hallowed and conscious of all ties of relationship and friendship which existed in their terrestrial life, they glide, in company with the hierarchy of heaven, into the domain of immortality forever and everlasting. The memory of the dead is handed down, from generation to generation, in religious ceremonies, which are periodically performed by the priests. One incident I must mention before closing this sublime theme. On an occasion somewhat similar to the Christian All Souls' Day, the souls of the Zoroastrians visit this sublunary earth once a year. Those who have participated in the ceremonies on these occasions can but feel that heavenly inspiration which becomes one's nature by faith and strict pious devotion. During the period of this pious visit, every Parsi household is thoroughly cleansed of the minutest impurity. In the best room of the house, a place is set apart, full of choice sweet-scented and fragrant flowers and fruits, a perfect picture of peaceful bliss, with fire of sandalwood burning, and the priests and members of the household, in the midst of a glorious illumination, chanting hymns of glory to God and His creation. Let there be. p. 55. No descent from a picture so nobly grand and a ceremony so sublime, as it is but an innocent homage to God's infinite blessings, and to us a source of comfort to hold communion with and feel in spirit the presence of those whom we have loved, respected, and adored, fathers and mothers, wives, brothers and sisters, relations and friends, who have done their duty and have gone before us, in accordance with the law, and with whom we hope to mingle, the body, dust to dust, the soul, in eternal bliss of Gautamana. S.A. Kapadia. Inner Temple, London, January 1905. Footnotes. 15. All-knowing. 15. Plus the Lord. 16. King Gushtasp. 16. Plus symbol of life. 21. Free translation of Fargard V of the Vendidad. 22. Ormuzd-Yast. Tr by Dharmasiddhar. 23. Dr. Hogg. 23. Plus for further information on this subject see Extracts Yakna XLIV. 25. Fargard I of the Vendidad. 28. Dr. E. W. West's Introduction to the Sacred Books of the East, Volume 18. 31. Dana I Managai Karad. 35. Fargard X of the Vendidad. 37. Yakna XIV. 39. Yakna LIII. 39. Plus Farvardin Yasht. 43. A Prayer of Repentance for Sin. 44. Fargard III of the Vendidad Dharmasiddhar. 45. Sad Darlgshii. 45. Plus Fargard XVII. Bleek's translation. 51. See notes. 52. Means life or vitality. 52. Plus conduit, canal or waterways. 53. Original creation a book. 53. Plus Lala Roop Thomas Moore. 55. House of Hymns the Highest Heaven. The Teachings of Zoroaster, by S.A. Kapadia, 1905, at Sacred Texts. Com. p. 56, p. 57. Extracts. Purity. Purity is for man, next to life, the greatest good. That purity is procured by the law of Mazda to him who cleanses his own self with good thoughts, words, and deeds. Make thyself pure, O righteous man. Anyone in the world here below can win purity for himself, namely, when he cleanses himself with good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Prayer of Ashimvohu Plus. From Kordavesta. 1. Purity is the best good. 2. Happiness, happiness is to him. 3. Namely, to the most pure in purity. P. 58. The law of Ahura Mazda. The law of Mazda cleanses the faithful from every evil thought, word, and deed, as a swift rushing, mighty wind cleanses the plain. So let all deeds thou doest be henceforth good. A full atonement for thy sin is effected by means of the law of Mazda. Commandments for the body and the soul plus. The sage asked the Spirit of Wisdom thus, how is it possible to seek maintenance and prosperity of the body without injury of the soul, and the preservation of the soul without injury of the body? The Spirit of Wisdom answered thus, him who is less than thee consider as an equal, and an equal as a superior, and a greater than him as a chieftain, and a chieftain as a ruler. And among rulers one is to be acquiescent, obedient, and true-speaking. And among accusers be submissive, mild, and kindly regardful. Commit no slander, so that infamy and p. 59. Wickedness may not happen unto thee. For it is said that slander is more grievous than witchcraft. Form no covetous desire, so that the demon of greediness may not deceive thee, and the treasure of the world may not be tasteless to thee. Indulge in no wrathfulness, for a man when he indulges in wrath becomes then forgetful of his duty, and good works and sin and crime of every kind occur unto his mind, and until the subsiding of the wrath he is said to be just like a Haman. Suffer no anxiety, for he who is a sufferer of anxiety becomes regardless of enjoyment of the world and the spirit, and contraction happens to his body and soul. Commit no lustfulness, so that harm and regret may not reach thee from thine own actions. Bear no improper envy, so that thy life may not become tasteless. Practice no sloth, so that the duty and good work, which it is necessary for thee to do, may not remain undone. Choose a wife who is of character, because p. 60. That one is good who in the end is more respected. Thou shouldst be diligent and moderate, an eat of thine own regular industry, and provide the share of the sacred beings and the good. And thus the practice of this in thy occupation is the greatest good work. With enemies fight with equity. With a friend proceed with the approval of friends. With a malicious man carry on no conflict, and do not molest him in any way whatever. With a greedy man thou shouldst not be a partner, and do not trust him with the leadership. With an ill-famed man form no connection. With an ignorant man thou shouldst not become a confederate and associate. With a foolish man make no dispute. With a drunken man do not walk on the road. From an ill-natured man take no loan. In forming a store of good works thou shouldst be diligent, so that it may come to thy assistance among the spirits. Thou shouldst not become presumptuous through any happiness of the world. For the happiness of the world is such like as a cloud that comes on a rainy day, which one does not ward off by any hill. P. 61. Thou shouldst not become presumptuous through much treasure and wealth. For in the end it is necessary for thee to leave all. Thou shouldst not become presumptuous through great connections and race. For in the end thy trust is on thine own deeds. Thou shouldst not become presumptuous through life. For death comes upon thee at last, and the perishable part falls to the ground. The soul's destination. 1. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda, Ahura Mazda, heavenly, holiest, creator of the corporeal world, pure. When a pure man dies, where does his soul dwell during this night? 2. Then answered Ahura Mazda, near his head it sits itself down, reciting the Gatha Ustavati, praying happiness for itself, happiness be to the man who conduces to the happiness of each. May Ahura Mazda create, ruling after his wish. On this night the soul sees as much joyfulness as the whole living world possesses. 3. Where does the soul dwell throughout the second night? P. 62. 4. Then answered Ahura Mazda, near his head it sits itself, etc. as in verse 2. 5. Where does his soul stay throughout the third night? 6. Then answered Ahura Mazda, near his head it sits itself, etc. as in verse 2. 7. When the lapse of the third night turns itself to light, then the soul of the pure man goes forward, recollecting itself at the perfume of plants. A wind blows to meet it from the midday region, a sweet-scented one, more sweet-scented than the other winds. 9. In that wind there comes to meet him his own law in the figure of a maiden, one beautiful, shining, with shining arms. One powerful, well-grown, slender, with large breasts, praiseworthy body. One noble, with brilliant face, one of 15 years, as fair in her growth as the fairest creatures. 10. Then to her the maiden speaks the soul of the pure man, asking, What maiden art thou whom I have seen here as the fairest of maidens in body? 11. Then replies to him his own law, I am, O youth, thy good thoughts, words, and works, thy good law, thine own law of thine own body, which would be in reference to thee like in greatness, goodness, and beauty, sweet-smelling, victorious, harmless, as thou appearest to me. P. 63. 12. Thou art like me, O well-speaking, well-thinking, well-acting youth, devoted to the good law, so in greatness, goodness, and beauty as I appear to thee. 14. Thou hast made the pleasant yet more pleasant to me, the fair yet fairer, the desirable yet more desirable, that sitting in a high place, sitting in a yet higher place, in these paradises Humata, Hutta, Varsta paradises. 15. The soul of the pure man goes the first step and arrives in the paradise Humata. The soul of the pure man takes the second step and arrives at the paradise Hutta. It goes the third step and arrives at the paradise Varsta. The soul of the pure man takes the fourth step and arrives at the eternal lights. 19. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda, Ahura Mazda, heavenly, holiest, creator of the corporeal world, pure. When a wicked one dies, where does the soul dwell throughout this night? 20. Then answered Ahura Mazda, There, O pure Zarathustra, near the head it runs about whilst it utters the prayer Kmanm, etc. Which land shall I praise, whither shall I go praying, O Ahura Mazda? In this night the soul sees as much displeasing as the whole living world. P. 64. 25. When the lapse of the third night approaches towards light, O pure Zarathustra, then goes the soul of the wicked man to the impure place, recollecting itself continually by the stench. To it comes a wind blowing from the north region, an evil-smelling one, more evil-smelling than other winds. 26. When the soul of the wicked man receives this wind into the nose, it goes saying, Whence comes this wind which I smell with the nose as the most evil-smelling wind? 33. The fourth step takes the soul of the wicked man and it arrives at the darknesses without beginning. The soul's rendering of account. The 13th question is that which you ask thus, Who should prepare the account of the soul as to sin and good works, and in what place should they make it up, and when punishment is inflicted by them, where is their place then? The reply is this, that the account about the doers of actions, as to good works and sin, 3 times every day whilst the doer of the actions is. P. 65. Living, Vahumano the archangel should prepare. Because taking account of the thoughts, words, and deeds of all material existences is among his duties. And about the sin which affects accusers, which is committed by breakers of promises, even in the world Mitro is said to be over the bodies, words, and fortunes of the promise breakers. And as to the amount, and also as to being more than the stipulation when there is a period of time, Mitro is the account keeper. In the 3 nights account Shrosh the righteous and Rashnu the just are over the estimate of the limits of the good works and sin of righteousness and wickedness. In the future existence, on the completion of every account, the Creator Ahura himself takes account, by whom both the former account of the 3 nights and all the thoughts, words, and deeds of the creatures are known through his omniscient wisdom. The punishment for a soul of the sinners comes from that spirit with whom the sin, which was committed by it, is connected, fostered by the iniquity practiced, that punishment comes upon the souls of the sinful and wicked, first on earth, afterwards in hell, and lastly at the organization of the future existence. When the punishment of the 3 nights is undergone, the soul of the righteous attains to heaven and the best existence, and the soul of the wicked to hell and the p. 66. Worse existence. When they have undergone their punishment at the renovation of the universe, they attain, by complete purification from every sin, unto the everlasting progress, happy progress, and perfect progress of the best and undisturbed existence. Gatha hymn. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, when praise is to be offered, how shall I complete the praise of the one like you, O Mazda? Let the one like thee declare it earnestly to the friend who is such as I, thus through thy righteousness within us to offer friendly help to us, so that the one like thee may draw near us through thy good mind within thee soul. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, how, in pleasing him, may we serve the Supreme One of the better world. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, who by generation was the first father of the righteous order, who gave the recurring sun and stars their undeviating way, who established that whereby the moon waxes, and whereby p. 67. She wanes, say thee? These things, O great Creator, would I know, and others likewise still. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, who from beneath hath sustained the earth and the clouds above that they do not fall, who made the waters and the plants, who to the wind has yoked on the storm clouds, the swift and fleetest too, who, O great Creator, is the inspirer of the good thoughts within our souls? This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, who, as a skillful artisan, hath made the lights and the darkness, who, as the skillful, hath made sleep and the zest of waking hours, who spread the auroras, the noontides and midnight, monitors to discerning man, duties, true guides. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright these things which I shall speak forth, if they are truly thus. Doth the piety which we cherish in reality increase the sacred orderliness within our actions? To these thy true saints hath she given the realm through the good mind. For whom hast thou made the mother kind, the producer of joy? This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, who fashioned Aramati our piety the beloved, together with thy sovereign power, who, through his guiding wisdom, hath made the Son revering the Father, who made him beloved. P. 68. Paragraph continues with questions such as these, so abundant, O Mazda. I press thee, O beautiful Spirit, thou maker of all. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, that I may ponder these which are thy revelations, O Mazda, and the words which were asked of thee by thy good mind within us, and that whereby we may attain, through thine order, to this life's perfection. Yea, how may my soul with joyfulness increase in goodness? This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright that holy faith which is of all things best, and which, going on hand in hand with thy people, shall further my lands in Asha, thine order, and, through the words of Aramati our piety, shall render actions just. The prayers of mine understanding will seek for thee, O Ahura. This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, who is the righteous one in that regard in which I ask thee my question? And who is evil? For which is the wicked? Or which is himself the foremost wicked one? And the vile man who stands against me in this gain of thy blessing, wherefore is he not held and believed to be the sinner that he is? This I ask thee, O Ahura. Tell me aright, how shall I banish this demon of the lie from p. 69. Us hence to those beneath who are filled with rebellion? Confession of Faith. The good, righteous, right religion which the Lord has sent to the creatures is that which Zarathustra has wrought. The religion is the religion of Zarathustra, the religion of Ahura Mazda, given to Zarathustra. The Creed. I praise the well-thought, well-spoken, well-performed thoughts, words, and works. I lay hold on all good thoughts, words, and works. I abandon all evil thoughts, words, and works. I bring to you, O Ameshakpentus, praise and adoration. With thoughts, words, and works, with heavenly mind, the vital strength of my own body, I drive away the Devas. I profess myself a Zarathustrian, an explorer of the Devas, the follower of the teachings of Ahura, a hymn singer of the Ameshakpentus, a praiser of the Ameshakpentus. P. 70. To Ahura Mazda, the good, endued with good wisdom, I offer all good. Prayer of Kemna Mazda. Whom hast thou placed to protect me, O Mazda, while the hate of the fiend is grasping me? Whom but thy Atar and Vahumano angels in charge of heaven, by whose work the holy world goes on? Reveal to me the rules of thy law. Prayer of Kivir Throne Ga+. Who is he who will smite the fiend in order to maintain thy ordinances? Teach me clearly thy rules for this world and for the next, that Shros angel who fights drug with an uplifted club, and guards the earth night and day may come with Vahumano and help whomsoever thou pleasest. Prayer of Ormuzd. In praise of God. And he who in this material world, O Spatama Zarathustra, shall recite and pronounce section those names of mine either by day or by night. P. 71. He who shall pronounce them, when he rises up or when he lays him down, when he binds on the sacred girdle or when he unbinds the sacred girdle, when he goes out of his dwelling place, or when he goes out of his town, or when he goes out of his country and comes into another country. That man, neither in that day nor in that night, shall be wounded by the weapons of the foe who rushes with anger and is drug-minded. But those names shall come in to keep him from behind and to keep him in front, from the drug unseen, from the evil-doer bent on mischief, and from that fiend who is all death, Angromanius. God as the King, the Life, the Rewarder. Praises, and songs, and adorations do we offer to Ahura Mazda, and to righteousness the best. Yea, we offer and we ascribe them, and proclaim them. And to thy good kingdom, O Ahura Mazda, may we attain forever, and a good king be thou over us. And let each man of us, and so each woman, thus abide, O thou most beneficent of beings, and for both the worlds. P. 72. So mayst thou be to us our life, and our body's vigor, O thou most beneficent of beings, and that for both the worlds. Let us win and conquer long life, O Ahura Mazda. In thy grace, and through thy will may we be powerful. Mayst thou lay hold on us to help, and with salvation, O thou most beneficent of beings. What reward most meet for our deserving thou hast appointed for the souls, O Ahura Mazda. Of that do thou bestow on us for this life, and for that of mind. Of that reward do thou thyself grant this advantage, that we may come under thy protecting guardianship, and that of righteousness forever. The creation of the world by Ahura Mazda and corresponding evils by Angromanius. Ahura Mazda spake unto Spatama Zarathustra, saying, I have made every land dear to its dwellers, even though it had no charms whatever in it. Had I not made every land dear to its dwellers, even though it had no charms whatever in it? P. 73. Then the whole living world would have invaded the Ariana Vago. Countries and lands created by Ahura Mazda. 1. Iriana Vago by the good river Daitya. 2. The plains of Suda. 3. The land of Morn-Merv. 4. Bhakti with high-lifted banners Balkh. 5. The land of Nisaya. 6. Haroyu with its lakes Harat. 7. Vekerta Kabul. 8. Urva of the rich pastures land in Krizan. 9. Knenta and Verkhana. 10. Haravati the beautiful. 11. The bright and glorious Hyattument. 12. Raga of the three races Rai, the birthplace of Zoroaster. Corresponding evils placed there by Angromanius the evil spirit. 1. The serpent and winter. 2. The fly Scatia, which stings and brings death to the cattle. 3. Sinful lusts. 4. Corn-eating ants. 5. The sin of unbelief. 6. The stained mosquito. 7. The Parakukmavati, meaning an evil creature or a pari who destroys mankind. 8. The sin of pride and tyranny. 9. Unnatural sin. 10. Sin of defiling the virgin earth by burying corpses. 11. Witchcraft and wizards. 12. Sin of utter unbelief, atheism. P. 74. 13. Holy Kakhra. 14. The four-cornered Varana. 15. Country of the seven rivers. 16. The land by the floods of the Rangha. 13. Sin of burning of corpses. 14. Illness of women. 15. Excessive heat. 16. Excessive frost. There are still other lands and countries, beautiful and deep, desirable and bright and thriving. God's warning to Yima of winter and deluge. And Ahura Mazda spake unto Yima, saying, O fair Yima, son of Vivanghat, upon the material world the fatal winters are going to fall, that shall bring the fierce, foul frost, that shall make snowflakes fall thick, even in Aredvi, deep on the highest tops of mountains. And all the three sorts of beasts shall perish, those that live in the wilderness, and those that live on the tops of the mountains, and those that live in the bosom of the dale, under the shelter of stables. Therefore make thee a vara, plus long as a riding ground on every side of the square, and thither. P. 75. Bring sheep and oxen, men, dogs, birds, and red blazing fires. There thou shalt make waters flow in a bed a hathra long. There thou shalt settle birds, by the evergreen banks that bear never-failing food. There thou shalt establish dwelling places, consisting of a house with a balcony, a courtyard, and a gallery. Thither thou shalt bring men and women, of the greatest, best, and finest kinds on this earth. Thither thou shalt bring every kind of cattle, of the greatest, best, and finest kinds on this earth. Thither thou shalt bring the seeds of every kind of fruit, the fullest of food and sweetest of odour. All those shalt thou bring, two of every kind, to be kept inexhaustible there, so long as those men shall stay in the vara. There shall be no humpbacked, none bulged forward there. No impotent, no lunatic, no poverty, no lying, no meanness, no jealousy, no decayed tooth, no leprous to be confined, nor any of the brands wherewith Angromanius stamps the bodies of mortals. Then Yima said within himself, how shall I manage to make that vara which Ahura Mazda has commanded me to make? And Ahura Mazda said unto Yima, P. 76. Crush the earth with the stamp of thy heel, and then knead it with thy hands. Blessings of cultivating the soil. He who would till the earth, with the left arm and the right, unto him will she bring forth plenty, like a loving bride, on her bed, unto her beloved. The bride will bring forth children, the earth will bring forth plenty of fruit. He who sows corn sows holiness, he makes the law of Mazda grow higher and higher. When barley is coming forth, the devas start up. When corn is growing ripe, then faint the devas' hearts. When the corn is being ground, the devas groan. When wheat is coming forth, the devas are destroyed. In that house they can no longer stay. From that house they are beaten away, wherein wheat is thus coming forth. He who tilling the earth would not kindly and piously give to one of the faithful, he shall fall down into the darkness down. P. 77. Into the world of woe, the dismal realm, down into the house of hell. Happiness of the earth. It is the place whereon one of the faithful erects a house with a priest within, with cattle, with a wife, with children, and good herds within. And wherein afterwards the cattle go on thriving, Holiness is thriving, fodder is thriving, the dog is thriving, the wife is thriving, the child is thriving, the fire is thriving, and every blessing of life is thriving. It is the place where one of the faithful cultivates most corn, grass, and fruit. Where he waters ground that is dry, or dries ground that is too wet. It is the place where there is most increase of flocks and herds. Grief of the earth plus. It is the place wherein most corpses of dogs and of men lie buried. P. 78. It is the place whereon the wife and children of one of the faithful are driven along the way of captivity, the dry, the dusty way, and lift up a voice of wailing. Unhappy is the land that has long lain unsown with the seed of the sower, and wants a good husbandman, like a well-shapen maiden who has long gone childless and wants a good husband. Cultivation of land where a corpse is found. A year long shall the ground lie fallow whereon dogs or men have died. Purification of water defiled by a corpse plus. O Maker of the material world, Thou Holy One! If a worshipper of Mazda, walking, or running, or riding, or driving, come upon a corpse in a stream of running water, what shall he do? Ahura Mazda answered, taking off his shoes, putting off his clothes, boldly, O Zarathustra. P. 79. He shall enter the river, and take the dead out of the water. He shall draw out of the water as much of the corpse as he can. No sin attaches to him for any bone, hair, that may drop back into the water. As long as the corpse has not been taken out of the water, so long shall that water be unclean and unfit to drink. After the corpse has been taken out and the stream has flowed 3 times, the water is clean. Religious education plus. He shall learn on during the first part of the day and the last, during the first part of the night and the last, that his mind may be increased in knowledge and wax strong in holiness. So shall he sit up, giving thanks and praying to God and his angels that he may be increased in knowledge. He shall rest during the middle part of the day, during the middle part of the night, and thus shall he continue until he can say all the words which former Athropatus have said. P. 80. Reward for the pious. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda, O thou all-knowing Ahura Mazda, should I urge upon the godly man, should I urge upon the godly woman, should I urge upon the wicked Deva worshipper who lives in sin, that they have once to leave behind them the earth made by Ahura, that they have to leave the water that runs, the corn that grows, and all the rest of their wealth? Ahura Mazda answered, Thou shouldst, O holy Zarathustra. O Maker of the material world, Thou Holy One! Where are the rewards given? Where does the rewarding take place? Where is the rewarding fulfilled? Whereto do men come to take the reward that, in their life in the material world, they have won for their souls? Ahura Mazda answered, When the man is dead, when his time is over, then the hellish, evil-doing Devas assail him. And when the third night is gone, when the dawn appears and brightens up, and makes Mithra plus reach the all-happy mountains, and the sun is rising, then the fiend named Visarisha carries off and bonds the souls of the wicked Deva worshippers who live in sin. The soul enters the way made by time, and open both to the wicked and to the righteous. At the head of the Kinvad. P. 81. Paragraph continues. Chinvat Bridge. They ask for their spirits and souls the reward for the worldly goods which they gave away here below. Uprises Vahumano, doorkeeper of heaven, from his golden seat. Vahumano exclaims, How hast thou come to us, thou Holy One, from that decaying world into this undecaying one? Gladly pass the souls of the righteous to the golden seat of Ahura Mazda, to the golden seat of the Ameshasventus, to Garutamana. Plus. Forgiveness of sin. The law of Mazda indeed, O Spatama Zarathustra, takes away from him who confesses it the bonds of his sin. It takes away the sin of breach of trust. It takes away the sin of murdering one of the faithful. It takes away the sin of burying a corpse. It takes away the sin of deeds for which there is no atonement. It takes away the heaviest penalties of sin. It takes away any sin that may be sinned. P. 82. the temptation. Thus Zarathustra answered Angromenius the evil spirit, O evildoer, Angromenius. I will smite the creation of the Deva. I will smite the Nasu, a creature of the Deva. Again to him said the guileful one, Angromenius, do not destroy my creatures, O holy Zarathustra. Renounce the good law of the worshippers of Mazda, and thou shalt gain such a boon as Zuluk, plus the murderer, gained, the ruler of the nations. Thus in answer to him said Svatama Zarathustra, No. Never will I renounce the good law of the worshippers of Mazda, though my body, my life, my soul should burst. Again to him said the guileful one, Angromenius, by whose word wilt thou strike, by whose word wilt thou repel, by whose weapon will the good creatures strike and repel my creation? The words taught by Mazda, these are my best weapons. By this word will I strike, by this word will I repel. O evildoer, Angromenius. To me Spentamenius' good spirit gave it. He gave it to me in the boundless time. To me the Amesha Spentus archangels, the all-ruling, the all-beneficent, gave it. P. 83. Zarathustra chanted aloud the prayer of Ahuna Varya. The will of the Lord is the law of holiness. The riches of Vahumano good mind shall be given to him who works in this world for Mazda, and wields according to the will of Ahura the power he gave to him to relieve the poor. They run away, the wicked, evil-doing Devas. They run away, casting the evil eye, the wicked, evil-doing Devas. Let us gather together at the head of Arzura the gate of hell. For he is born, the holy Zarathustra, in the house of Purushaspa. How can we procure his death? He is the stroke that fells the fiends. Down are the Deva worshippers, the Nasu made by the Deva, the false-speaking lie. They run away, they rush away, the wicked, evil-doing Devas, into the depths of the dark, horrid world of hell. Banishment of Angromenius. Away art thou driven, O mischievous Angromenius! From the fire, from the water, from the earth, from the cow, from the tree, from the faithful man, and from the faithful woman, from all good things made by Mazda, the offspring of the holy principle. P. 84. On loan. He who does not restore a thing lent when it is asked for back again, steals the thing. He robs the man. So he does every day, every night, as long as he keeps in his house his neighbor's property, as though it were his own. On waste plus. Ahura Mazda, indeed, does not allow us to waste anything of value that we may have, not even so much as an aspirina's weight of thread, not even so much as a maid lets fall in spinning. Temperance. Regarding wine, it is evident that it is possible for good and bad temper to come to manifestation through wine. It is not requisite for investigation, because he who is a good-tempered man, when he drinks wine, is such like as a gold or silver cup which, however much more they burn it, becomes purer and brighter. It also keeps his thoughts. P. 85. Words and deeds more virtuous. And he becomes gentler and pleasanter unto wife and child, companions and friends, and is more diligent in every duty and good work. And he who is a bad-tempered man, when he drinks wine, thinks and considers himself more than ordinary, he carries on a quarrel with companions, displays insolence, makes ridicule and mockery, and acts arrogantly to a good person. He distresses his own wife and child, slave and servant, and dissipates the joy of the good, carries off peace, and brings in discord. But everyone must be cautious as to the moderate drinking of wine. Because, from the moderate drinking of wine, thus much benefit happens to him, since it digests the food, kindles the vital fire, increases the understanding and intellect, and blood, removes vexation, and the complexion. It causes recollection of things forgotten, and goodness takes a place in the mind. It likewise increases the sight of the eye, the hearing of the ear, and the speaking of the tongue. And work, which it is necessary to do and expedite, becomes more progressive. He also sleeps pleasantly and rises light. And in him who drinks wine more than moderately, himself, wife, and child, friend and kindred, are distressed and unhappy, and p. 86. The superintendent of troubles and the enemy are glad. The sacred beings, also, are not pleased with him. And infamy comes to his body, and even wickedness to his soul. And even he who gives wine authorizedly unto any one, and he is thereby intoxicated by it, is equally guilty of every sin which that drunkard commits owing to that drunkenness. Soul's visit to the earth plus. We worship the good, strong, beneficent Fervatius of the faithful, who come and go through the borough at the time of the Hammerspath Maida section. They go along there for 10 nights, asking thus: who will praise us? Who will offer us a sacrifice? Who will meditate upon us? Who will bless us? Who will receive us with meat and clothes in his hand and with a prayer worthy of bliss? Of which of us will the name be taken for invocation? Of which of you will the soul be worshipped by you with a sacrifice? To whom will the gift of ours be given, that he may have never failing food for ever and ever? And the man who offers them up as sacrifice, with meat and clothes in his hand, with a prayer worthy of bliss, the awful Fervatius of the faithful, satisfied, unharmed, and unoffended, bless thus. p. 87. May there be in this house flocks of animals and men. May there be a swift horse and a solid chariot. May there be a man who knows how to praise God and rule in an assembly, who will offer us sacrifices with meat and clothes in his hand, and with a prayer worthy of bliss. The Mazda-Yasnian Confession. I drive the Devas hence. I confess as a Mazda worshipper of the order of Zarathustra, estranged from the Devas, devoted to the lore of the Lord, a praiser of the bountiful immortals. And to Ahura Mazda, the good and endowed with good possessions, I attribute all things good, to the Holy One, the resplendent, to the glorious, whose are all things whatsoever which are good. Whose is the kind, whose is Asha the righteous order pervading all things pure, whose are the stars, in whose lights the glorious beings and objects are clothed. And I choose piety, the bounteous and the good, mine may she be. And therefore I loudly deprecate all robbery and violence against the sacred kine, and all drought to the wasting of the Mazda-Yasnian villages. Never may I stand as a source of wasting, never as a source of withering to the Mazda-Yasnian villages, not for the love of body or of life. p. 88. Away do I abjure the shelter and headship of the Devas, evil as they are. I, utterly bereft of good, and void of virtue, deceitful in their wickedness, of all beings those most like the demon of the lie, the most loathsome of existing things, and the ones the most of all bereft of good. Off, do I abjure the Devas and all possessed by them, the sorcerers and all that hold to their devices, and every existing being of the sort. Their thoughts do I abjure, their words and actions, and their seed that propagate their sin. Away do I abjure their shelter and their headship. Thus and so in every deed might Ahura Mazda have indicated to Zarathustra in every question which Zarathustra asked, and in all the consultations in the which they two conversed together. Thus and so might Zarathustra have abjured the shelter and the headship of the Devas in all the questions and in all the consultations with which they two conversed together, Zarathustra and the Lord. And so I myself, in whatsoever circumstances I may be placed, as a worshipper of Mazda, and of Zarathustra's order, would so abjure the Devas and their shelter, as he who was the holy Zarathustra abjured them. To that religious sanctity to which the waters appertain, do I belong, to that sanctity to which p. 89. The plants, to that sanctity to which the kind of blessed gift, to that religious sanctity to which Ahura Mazda, who made both kind and holy men, belongs, to that sanctity do I. A Mazda worshipper I am, of Zarathustra's order. So do I confess, as a praiser and confessor, and I therefore praise aloud the well-thought thought, the word well spoken, and the deed well done. Yea, I praise at once the faith of Mazda, the faith which has no faltering utterance, the faith that wields the felling halbert, the holy creed, which is the most imposing, best, and most beautiful of all religions which exist, and of all that shall in future come to knowledge, Ahura's faith, the Zarathustran creed. Yea, to Ahura Mazda do I ascribe all good, and such shall be the worship of the Mazda-Yasnian belief. Padatarani. Prayer for repentance. I am wholly without doubt in the existence of the good Mazda-Yasnian faith, in the coming of the resurrection and the later body, in the stepping over the bridge Chinvat, in an invariable recompense of good deeds and their reward. P. 90. And of bad deeds and their punishment, as well as in the continuance of paradise, in the annihilation of hell and Ahriman and the Devas, that God Ahura Mazda will at last be victorious and Ahriman will perish together with the Devas and the offshoots of darkness. All that I ought to have thought and have not thought, all that I ought to have said and have not said, all that I ought to have done and have not done, all that I ought to have ordered and have not ordered, all that I ought not to have thought and yet have thought, all that I ought not to have spoken and yet have spoken, all that I ought not to have done and yet have done, all that I ought not to have ordered and yet have ordered. For thoughts, words, and works, bodily and spiritual, earthy and heavenly, pray I for forgiveness, and repent of it with padat. Plus. This heavenly padat shall be a fast brazen wall, that it may keep the gate of hell fast in bonds, and the way to paradise open, the way to that best place, to the shining Gar-Othman which possesses all majesty, that our soul and the souls of the pure at the bridge Chinvat, the great, may step over freed from trouble and p. 91. Easily, and may the pure Shrosh, the victorious, friend, protector, overseer, be the protector and the watcher of my soul. Marriage Service Plus. Do you both accept the contract for life with honorable mind, that pleasure may increase to ye twain? Admonitions. In the name and friendship of Ahura Mazda. Be ever shining. Be increasing. Be victorious. Learn purity. Be worthy of good praise. May the mind think good thoughts, the words speak good, the works do good. Be a Mazda-Yasnian, accomplish works according to thy mind. Speak truth and be obedient. Be modest with friends, clever, and well-wishing. Be not cruel. Be not wrathful-minded. Commit no sin through shame. Be not covetous. Torment not. Cherish not wicked envy, be not haughty, treat no one despitefully, cherish no lust. Rob not the property of others, keep thyself from the wives of others. Do good works with good activity. Enter into no strife with a revengeful man. Be no companion. P. 92. To a covetous one. Go not on the same way with the cruel one. Enter into no agreement with one of ill fame. Combat the adversaries with right. Enter into no strife with those of evil repute. Before an assembly speak only pure words. Before kings speak with moderation. In no wise displease thy mother. Keep thine own body pure in justice. Blessings. May Ahura Mazda God send you gifts, Bahman, thinking with the soul. Ardibihis good speech. Sharavar, good working. Sapendarmat, wisdom. Kordat, sweetness and prosperity. Amurdat, fruitfulness. May that come to you which is better than the good, may that not come to you which is worse than the evil. The vision of Ardavira Plus. They say that, once upon a time, the pious Zoroaster made the religion which he had received current in the world. Until the p. 93. Completion of 300 years the religion was in purity, and men were without doubts. And this religion, namely all the Avesta and Zend, written upon prepared cowskins and with gold ink, was deposited in the archives in Stakrapapakon. And the hostility of the evil destined, wicked Ashimach, the evildoer, brought onward Alexander, the Roman who was dwelling in Egypt, and he burned them up. And after that there was confusion and contention among the people of the country of Iran, one with the other. And afterwards there were other magi and desters of the religion, and some of their number were loyal and apprehensive. And an assembly of them was summoned in the residence of the victorious Robag Fire. and there were speeches and good ideas of many kinds on this subject, that it is necessary for us to seek a means so that some of us may go and bring intelligence from the spirits, that the people who exist in this age shall know whether these Yazashni and Drun and Afranigan ceremonies, and Nuran prayers, and ablutions and purifications which we bring into operation attain unto God or unto p. 94. The demons, and come to the relief of our souls or not. And from the 7, 3 were selected, and from the 3, 1 only, named Viraf, and some called him the Nishapurian. Then that Viraf, as he heard that decision, stood upon his feet, joined his hands on his breast, and spake thus: If it please you, then give me not the undesired narcotic till you cast lots for the Mazdao Yasnians and me. And if the lot come to me, I shall go willingly to that place of the pious and the wicked, and carry this message correctly, and bring an answer truly. After I had drunk the consecrated wine, and I had reposed my body to rest, and given my mind up to the adoration of God, methought my soul took its flight towards the holy regions, where Siroshazad appeared unto me, and beckoned me towards him, when, after giving and receiving the customary salutations, Siroshazad said to me, You have made a long journey in the faith. I am happy to see you in these blessed regions, and your escape from the world of wickedness gives one great pleasure. But, Artaviraf, you have come before your time. What is the occasion? Artaviraf replied in accents of p. 95. Complacency, I have been sent, O Siroshazad, by the king, by the priests, and by the voice of the nation in general, on this embassy, to know of heaven and hell, in order that heresy and schism be banished from the earth, and that the worship of the true God be restored to its wonted purity. On saying this, Siroshazad took hold of me by the arm, and led me forward across the bridge, when the throne of Merazad came in view, with Roshni-Azad plus standing by him, holding in his hands the scales of justice, made of pure gold, and having on his right hand and on his left 5,000 angels, and whose different petitions he can hear at once, and if written can see at one glance. Having saluted, and having my salutation returned, the attending angels surrounded me, and thus addressed me, O Artaviraf, your time has not yet come. How and by what means have you come thus far? I answered, I have come thus far by the assistance of God, at the request of my king, Ardashir Babegan, of the priests, and of the people, to collect and report the wonders of heaven and hell, that I may see that the truth may by these means be again restored to the earth, and heresy and wickedness banished forever. Afterwards arose Vahumano, the archangel, p. 96, from a throne made of gold, and he took hold of my hand. With the words good thought and good word and good deed, he brought me into the midst of Aharmazd and the archangels and other holy ones, and the guardian angels of Zarathushta Spatama, Kivishtasp, Jamasp, Isavastar, the son of Zarathustra, and other upholders and leaders of the religion, than whom I have never seen any one more brilliant and excellent. And Vahuman said thus, This is Aharmazd. And I wished to offer worship before him. And he said to me thus, Salutation to thee, Artaviraf, thou art welcome. From that perishable world thou hast come to this pure bright place. And he ordered Shrosh the pious, and Ataro plus the angel, thus, Take Artaviraf, and show him the place and reward of the pious, and also the punishment of the wicked. And I saw the darkest hell, which is pernicious, dreadful, terrible, very painful, mischievous, and evil-smelling. And after further observation it appeared to me as a pit, at the bottom of which 1,000 cubits would not reach. And though all the wood which is in the world were put on to the fire in this most stinking and gloomy hell, it would never emit a smell. And again also, as p. 97. Close as the ear to the eye, and as many as the hairs on the mane of a horse, so close and many in number the souls of the wicked stand, but they see not and hear no sound one from the other. Every one thinks thus, I am alone. and for them are the gloom of darkness and the stench and fearfulness of the torment and punishment of hell of various kinds. So that whoever is only a day in hell cries out thus, "Are not those 9,000 years yet completed when they should release us from this hell?" "Without trouble nothing can be attained," said Siroshazad. "The poor day laborer is worthy of his hire, and those who perform good works will have their reward in eternal life, according to their several merits." He continued, "The life of man is of short duration, and many troubles and anxieties fall to his lot. And a man, after 50 years of prosperity and happiness, may be, by some unforeseen accident, reduced to sickness and poverty. Many are tried by this criterion, and but few are found worthy. To suffer a day of pain, after 50 years of pleasure, is too much for them, and they complain in bitterness of spirit to the Creator of all good of his injustice and cruelty, without remembering the good they have so long enjoyed or calling to mind the eternity of punishment in reserve for the p. 98. Wicked. Therefore, O Ardaviraf, walk yourself in the ways of righteousness, and teach others also to do so. Recollect that your body will return to dust, but your soul, if rich in good works, will mount to immortality, and partake of the happiness you have already witnessed. Take less care of your body and more of your soul. The pains and aches of the body are easily cured, but who can minister to the diseases of the soul? When you set out on a journey in the lower world, you provide yourselves, and take with you money, clothes, provisions, and are prepared against all the exigencies of the road, but what do you provide yourselves with for your last journey of the soul from the lower to the upper world, and whose friendship have you to assist you on the way? Hear, O Ardaviraf, and I will describe to you the provisions requisite for the voyage to eternal life. In the first place, the friend who will assist you is God. But to attain his friendship you must walk in his ways and place in him the firmest reliance. The provisions must be faith and hope and the remembrance of your good works. The body, O Ardaviraf, may be likened unto a horse, and the soul to its rider, and the provisions requisite for the support of both are good actions. But as with a feeble rider the horse is ill-managed, so with a feeble horse the rider is but ill-accommodated. Care ought to be taken that both are p. 99. Kept in order. So, in a spiritual sense, the soul and body must be kept in order by a succession of good actions. Even in the world the multitude would sneer at a man who took more care of his horse than of himself. For this reason a man ought to take more care of his soul than of his body. God, O Ardaviraf, requires only two things of the sons of men: the first, that they should not sin; the next, that they should be grateful of the many blessings he is continually bestowing upon them. Let the world, O Ardaviraf, be taught not to set their hearts on the pleasures and vanities of life, as nothing can be carried away with them. You have already seen the rewards given to the good and deserving, how they have been repaid for all their trouble. The poor and the rich, the king and the peasant, here receive honors and distinctions according to their good works. The herdsman and shepherd, you have seen their condition. In youth and in the prime of manhood, when blessed with health and vigor, you suppose that your strength will never fail, that your riches, your lands, your houses, and your honors will remain forever, that your gardens will be always green and your vineyards fruitful. But, O Ardaviraf, teach them not to think so. Teach them the danger of such a way of thinking. All will pass away as a dream. The flowers fade, and give lessons unto man. p. 100. That he is unwilling to profit by. Yea, the world itself will pass away, and nothing will remain but God. Therefore, O Ardaviraf, turn your thoughts only towards him. No pleasure but has its concomitant pain. Roses have thorns, and honors fall into disgrace. It is pleasant to drink wine, but intoxication brings pain, if not disgrace. If you exceed in eating, this also brings its punishment, and you must have a doctor. Even if you drink the purest water to excess, it engenders dropsy. Therefore let the avoidance of excess in everything be most particularly inculcated, in wine or women, in eating and drinking, though they bring their own punishment in the world by the diseases they engender, yet they encourage the most deadly sins, and the soul so indulging will most assuredly be cut off from heaven. So you see, O Artaviraf, that the indulgence of our passions brings no pleasure of long duration, or impresses any good sentiment on the heart. If after praying to God for offspring, and He has granted your request, into what sea of trouble and anxiety are you plunged? Your son or daughter may grow up in vicious habits, and embitter your days by their undutiful conduct. The one may become a thief, the other a courtesan, and bring disgrace on your old age. The bee that produces honey has also a sting. The world is composed of lust, avarice, and p. 101. Of passions the most ungovernable. If God gives them one thing, even that for which they most desire, they are not satisfied, but are continually craving for more and more, to 100-fold. Avarice and ambition deprive them of sleep, and prevent them from making a laudable exertion to subdue these dreadful passions, which will plunge them into everlasting misery. A king who has conquered all the surrounding countries sighs because he has no more worlds to subdue. Kai Kos, after having conquered many countries, aspired to be a king in heaven, and was punished for his presumption by a dreadful fall, which made him sensible of his folly. So you see, O Artaviraf, that content is the happiest condition of man and the most pleasing to the Creator, and treasure the advice I have given you. And as you return to the lower world, inculcate these precepts, and abide by the laws and walk in the way of truth and holiness, and continue in the worship of the true God. Sanctity. I pray with benedictions for our benefit, and for the good, evens for the entire creation of the holy and the clean. I beseech them for the generation which is now alive, for that which is just coming into life, and for that which shall be. p. 102. Hereafter. And I pray for that sanctity which leads to prosperity, and which has long afforded shelter, which goes on hand in hand with it, which joins it in its walk, and of itself becoming its close companion as it delivers forth its precepts, bearing every form of healing virtue which comes to us in waters, appertains to cattle, or is found in plants, and overwhelming all the harmful malice of the Devas, and their servants who might harm this dwelling and its Lord, bringing good gifts, and better blessings, given very early, and later gifts, leading to successes, and for a long time giving shelter. And so the greatest, and the best, and most beautiful benefits of sanctity fall likewise to our lot for the sacrifice, homage, propitiation, and the praise of the bountiful immortals, for the bringing prosperity to this abode, and for the prosperity of the entire creation of the holy, and the clean, and as for this, so for the opposition of the entire evil creation. Prayer for safety. Keep us from our hater, O Mazda. Perish, O fiendish drug. Perish, O brood of the fiend. Perish, O world of the fiend. Perish away to the regions of the north, never more to give unto death the living world of the Holy Spirit. Footnotes. 57. Sacred Books of the East. 57. Plus Spiegel and Bleek's translation. 58. Sacred Books of the East. Translation by J. Dharmasiddar. 58. Plus Dina Imanagai Karad. Sacred Books of the East. Translated by Dr. West. 59. Devil. 61. Spiegel and Bleek's translation. 64. Dadistani Dinnik. Sacred Books of the East. Translated by Dr. West. 66. Sacred Books of the East. Yakna XLIV. Dr. L. H. Mills translation. 69. Spiegel and Bleek's translation. 70. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 70. Plus Ibid. 70. Ibid. 70. Section C Introduction about the Names of God. 71. Sacred Books of the East. Translation by Dr. L. H. Mills. 72. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 74. Sacred Books of the East. 74. Plus an enclosure. 75. about an English mile. 76. Sacred Books of the East. 77. Sacred Books of the East. 77. Plus Ibid. 78. Sacred Books of the East. 78. Plus Ibid. 79. Probably Tides. 79. Plus Ibid. 79. A Teaching Priest. 80. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 80. Plus God of Light. 81. Archangels. 81. Plus Highest Heaven. 81. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 82. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 82. Plus C Notes. 83. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. 84. Sacred Books of the East. 84. Plus Ibid. 84. Dana Imanagai Karad. Sacred Books of the East. Translated by Dr. West. 86. Dadistani Dinnik. 86. Plus Sacred Books of the East. 86. Souls. 86. Section The Last 10 Days of the Year. 86. Awe-inspiring. 87. Sacred Books of the East. Translated by Dr. L. H. Mills. 89. Spiegel and Bleek's translation. 90. The Devil. 90. Plus Penance. 91. The Guardian Angel. 91. Plus Spiegel and Bleek's translation. 92. C.M. Shaspins, page 41. 92. Plus Dr. Hogg and Dr. West's Art of Irf. J. A. Pope's Revelations of Art of Irf. 93. Chief Priests. 94. The Guardian Angel of Souls. 95. Mithra, the Recording Angel. 95. Plus Angel of Justice. 95. Good Mind. 96. Good. 96. Plus God of Fire, the Angel of Life. 101. Sacred Books of the East. Translated by Dr. L. H. Mills. 102. Max Muller's Sacred Books of the East. The Teachings of Zoroaster, by S. A. Kapadia, 1905, at Sacred Texts. Com. p. 103. Notes. Yima was known in the Shah name as Jamshud. Pride was the cause of his downfall. God conferred favors on him, and, according to the Vendidad, he became a mighty and prosperous king. Being elated by his success, he disowned God, and in the words of Ferdowsi thus expressed himself. Behold in me the monarch of the world. By me all nature speaks, by me the thunders hurled. For me the demons all their magic spread. So vain his soul he knew not what he said. This world is mine, no other God I know, from me alone all excellence can flow. This act of heresy caused his empire to crumble to pieces, and, mighty as he was taken prisoner by the wicked Zok and sawn in two between planks. Zohak, according to Ferdowsi, was a son of an Arabian prince. Early in life he had sold his soul to the devil. He started his infamous reign by murdering his father. At the time when he conquered Jamshud, the devil had bestowed on him 2 serpents, one on each shoulder, who had to be fed with human brains. This curse of the devil brought terrible ruins to the soil of ancient Iran. According to the old Persian legend, Zalk was chained. p. 104. Up in a cave on Mount Damavand by Faridun, who conquered and ascended the throne of Iran. Zalk is destined to remain there, a prey to anguish, till the day of judgment. Night and day he licks his iron fetters so as to thin the middle and break his bonds. A cock, placed there by the guardian angel, gives forth his clarion notes on the break of day, and the fetters of Zalk, rendered thin by hours of licking, with a clang and clatter immediately resume their original size. Thus once more the labor of Zalk has to be begun again. This will go on till the final trumpet call. It is the punishment to one who, in his early folly, sold his soul to the evil one. Gao was a blacksmith during the reign of Zalk. His son was captured by Zalk's retainers, and was destined to feed the serpents with his brains. Go, in his terrible anguish to save his child such a horrible and atrocious death, tore off his leathern apron, and, waving it aloft, raised a cry for freedom from his tyrant. The band of soldiers gathered around him under Feridun, the conqueror of Zok and liberator of Iran, adopted his apron as the royal standard, which was handed down from generations of rulers of ancient Iran bedecked with precious stones and which was carried aloft in the forefront of numerous battles of historical renown as Gaviani Zoindo. It proudly floated and shared all the glories of the Persian Empire in veneration of its doughty warriors. Printed and bound by Hassel, Watson and Viney, London and Aylesbury. Footnotes 103. History of Persian Kings, by the great epic poet Ferdowsi. The Teachings of Zoroaster, by S. A. Kapadia, 1905, at Sacred Texts. Com. p. 105. The following historical advertisements followed the text of the original book. They are included for completeness. JBH. The Orient Press. Wisdom of the East Series. In pot 16 mo, price 1 shilling each, net in cloth limp excepting the 2 first volumes. 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126 126